Alright guys, I'm talking about two fragrances today. I'm doing a comparison video of Passage d'Enfer with Passage d'Enfer Extreme. And these fragrances remind me of Easter. I grew up Christian Orthodox, and Easter is a big holiday for us. The reason that fragrance or those fragrances remind me of Easter is because it features lilies, and it's also incense smoky. So Easter lilies at church. That's what these fragrances remind me of. Well, I'm doing a comparison of the two. The original was launched in 1999. It's quite old. The Extreme just came out last year. But 1 year prior to the Extreme coming out, there was another fragrance launched by a house called Nars called Audacious, this one right here. All three fragrances are created by Olivia Giacobetti, a fragrance perfumer that I'm a fan of. Either way, I'm going to let you know all about these three fragrances. Actually, the three fragrances do remind me of Easter, coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, today I'm talking about Passage d'Enfer, a gorgeous lily or white floral incense woody combination. Both of them are really, really great. One actually gets a little woodier on me with the fact that it has a lot more woods thrown in, one of the fragrances out of the two. And then the other one that I'm going to talk to you about goes a lot more floral. So this video is mostly about Passage d'Enfer from 1999 and Passage d'Enfer Extreme from 2020. But as I said, I'm going to let you know a little bit about Nars Audacious, which is created by the same perfumer, which also reminds me of those two other fragrances. Either way though, before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. The other thing is, I lied. There's a fourth fragrance, which I don't have here currently, that is also created by Olivia Giacobetti from a house called Ylang-Ylang. That also kind of reminds me of this particular series of fragrances. The combination of woody incense, balsamic, resinous, with beautiful white lilies, and then sandalwood thrown in there as well. I think it's a great combination. And the fact that Olivia Giacobetti has created this beautiful combination of notes together is quite phenomenal. So I don't have Lethaire here today, but we're going to start off with Passage d'Enfer, the original here, and of course Passage d'Enfer Extreme here. So this is a 1999 launch, the original. It's been a while that it was launched. I'm surprised that it still stands the test of time because it's a great scent. I love the combination. The combination really works great. The contrasting combination is what really does it for me here. Beautiful white lilies, which actually remind me of Easter, with the combination of incense, which also reminds me of Easter, is top-notch, phenomenal. So a 100 ml bottle of the original Eau de Toilette is $170, and this features notes of cedarwood, incense, white lily, and white musk. Now, in 2020, this extreme version has launched, but you know what? I did notice on L'Artisan's website that this label is now also similar to this, but this is the Eau de Toilette, the original version. This is the Eau de Parfum, an extreme version, and a 100 ml bottle of this one is $180. And then again, for notes here, what we have is incense, vanilla, white lily, jasmine, and sandalwood. So what are the differences? But first of all, Eau de Toilette versus Eau de Parfum, the concentration is different. For me, means more oils, more perfume oils, generally equals more longevity with fragrances. And before the Eau de Parfum or Extreme was launched, I was quite happy with the original Eau de Toilette version. Although now that I'm experiencing the Eau de Parfum Extreme version, I like the fact that it does get a little creamy woody on me, as I said, with a combination of the lily note in here. It's just a really, really beautiful combination of notes, as I said. But let's go back to the first and tell you a little bit about this. This one sprays on very smoky, incensey right off the bat. The lily develops. It does get creamy. I mean, white flowers kind of generally do. And I feel like there's probably a little bit of sandalwood in here, maybe perhaps a little bit in addition to the cedarwood, but it does kind of soften up, but still, it gets woody and white floral at the same time. But the thing I like about these two fragrances, not so much the Audacious from Nars, there is something like a pencil shavings like of a smell in there. I think it's the combination of the notes they're using or whatever, the incense perhaps. It's very woody, and it does kind of have this kind of like incense slash pencil shavings combination. Chopped woods kind of thing comes to mind, and the smell of woods that are shaved comes to mind with the particular fragrance. And it's a beautiful contrast with this particular fragrance in addition to the extreme version. Sort of reminds me of a fragrance from Comme des Garçons called Zagorsk, because that to me smells like pencil shavings. And again, it's an incense. It's an incense series fragrance, and it goes into that pencil shavings direction, not necessarily ultra smoky in that one, because I get more pencil shavings with that one in contrast to this, which I get the pencil shaving experience, but I also get the smokiness with it, which is why it kind of reminds me of church. You know, lilies for Easter at church is exactly what the experience is for me. But you know what? Throughout the experience of this, it does get musky. It's quite musky. The white flowers are very prominent. I love it. There's a sweetness about white lilies that I really, really love. And it's just, when I smell it, it just totally takes me back to the lilies at Easter that I used to smell. And then that's what kind of comes up with this one. There's balsamic touches here. But, you know, it doesn't necessarily last as long as this particular one. I agree that's how the fragrances are for me, in comparison to like an eau de toilette concentration with an eau de parfum concentration. I do get a lot more longevity with this one, but as I said, I also get a lot more woods with this one, and then it's creamier. There's a creaminess under there, and sandalwood kind of has a creamy touch to begin with, so there's a creamy milkiness under there. It almost kind of like complements the white lilies as well, because I always feel like white flowers like tuberose, lilies, gardenias, maybe even jasmine, magnolias, they have a creamy undertone, so it just kind of like complements it perfectly, I think, with the sandalwood. But still, I get the chopped woods experience here, shaved woods, kind of a pencil shavings kind of experience, but you know, it's more creamy version of that. So if I'm comparing the two fragrances, they do smell very similar to one another, just somewhat things are different, as in the fact that this has the sandalwood a little more than the fact that the eau de toilette has a lot more cedarwood. Now I get traces of cedarwood in here as well. I think just the fact that I'm getting the pencil shavings experience, I feel like there's cedarwood in here as well. But both of them are ultra gorgeous fragrances. You've got to like woody fragrances, first of all, and it's such a contrast. Very masculine note, woods, with a, you know, sort of a feminine note of white flowers. So you've got to like contrasts like this, and I really love the contrast. Sometimes the best fragrances are contrasting notes, and that's why I think this particular fragrance in its original form has lasted for so long, since 1999. It's been here that long, and people tend to, you know, like it and gravitate towards it enough that they would launch an extreme version so many years later here with the Passage d'Enfer Extreme. So let me know if you're a fan of this particular fragrance and if you've tested these two, and what are your thoughts about the comparison. Maybe you've only sampled the latest release because it just came out, and since the fact that this is a little older, maybe you've kind of skipped it or forgotten about it, but maybe you've compared the two. Let me know what you think about it, the differences in smells, and in general, what do you think about the fragrance style and the combination of the incense with the lily. One other question, I have a friend who's a huge fan of this particular fragrance. Not only in Audacious, loves this, L'Enfer from Yunks, and of course Passage d'Enfer and the Extreme. He didn't know about the Extreme until I had him smell it, and he really like totally fell in love with it. It's this kind of fragrance style. I don't know what it is about it that he loves, but he absolutely loves the fragrance and the combination. I think he also likes the idea that there is that pencil shavings experience in here, and he's always told me that he likes that smell of the pencil shavings. Go figure. But you know, when I was testing this one out in comparison to this, while he was smelling this, I get a little animalic undertone here, something under there And I almost feel like the Lillies has something animalic in there that I'm getting. Or it could be just a combination of the notes or whatever. But there is something animalic under there that I did not experience with this particular fragrance. So I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe it's just my skin chemistry or whatever. But that's the experience I have with this one, so I should warn you about it. But I also want to let you know the per mil price. I said this is $170, this is $180. So there's only $10 difference between an eau de toilette versus an eau de parfum. Depends on how strong of a fragrance you want. Per mil price here is $1.85. Per mil prices here is $1.96. So now that we've talked about those two fragrances, let's talk a little bit about Nars Audacious. Where's the name right there? The bottles kind of do remind me of one another a little bit. And this is actually a 50 ml bottle. It only comes in a 50 ml bottle, and it's $180, the same price as 100 ml of Passage d'Enfer. That's the first thing you should look at as pricing, because I feel like the price for this one is definitely a lot better, because you get double the juice, 100 ml for 180, 50 ml for 180. So that's the first thing you should look at, because per mil price here with tax is $3.92. Per mil price here with tax is $1.96. So you're getting 100 ml juice for 180 plus tax, and of course 50 ml for the 180 plus tax. So that's the first thing you should look at. But the other thing to look at here, this one actually doesn't get as smoky and woody as this one does. This one actually does go tropical, because some of the flowers they use here are tropical and very, very creamy. So the flowers are very, very creamy, and that's why I say there's a creaminess about some white flowers. But Audacious came out in 2019. No, the Parfumeur is Olivia Giacobetti. What am I saying? There's no Parfumeur. That's the reason why I'm comparing it. It does remind me of Passage d'Enfer for sure, but once you kind of dig into it, you'll experience the fact that this is a lot creamier, a lot more floral. There's white flowers here, in addition to yellow flowers and tropical flowers, and then the fact that it goes creamy and less woody than Passage d'Enfer and Passage d'Enfer Extreme. But the notes here in Audacious are Frangipani, Tiare flower, Ylang-Ylang, Sandalwood, Incense, White Musk. For me, the Incense kind of takes a back seat because the stars are pretty much the Frangipani and the Tiare flower. So Frangipani is a very tropical flower to me. Tiare flower is also a very tropical flower. Even Ylang-Ylang is very tropical. But I experience similarities in all three fragrances. The fact that this just goes more creamy, floral, tropical in comparison to the other two. If you want more incense, I'd say you stick with Passage d'Enfer Extreme. If you want more flowers, more creaminess, I think you should check this one out. Again, the price is double the price in comparison to this, but you might enjoy a creamier floral tropical experience in comparison to a very woody, dry, incensey white lily experience of this one. So that's what I wanted to bring up. The fact that, here we go with Olivia Giacobetti creating something that smells kind of similar to not only Passage d'Enfer, and I believe this is the first one out of all four I've mentioned today, the original Passage d'Enfer. I'm not sure when La Terre came out from Yonks, but this one did come out in 2019, and of course the Extreme was 2020. Anyway, those are my thoughts on these four fragrances. Let me know your thoughts on them. Have you tried Audacious by Nars? Have you compared it to Passage d'Enfer? What are your thoughts? And have you compared this to this, perhaps? Or in general, have you compared these two together? And then also let me know, have you compared La Terre to any of these fragrances? I'd like to find out, because as I said, the combination is very, very similar. It's the sandalwoody, woody kind of experience with white flowers. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to watch my comparison video of Passage d'Enfer with Passage d'Enfer Extreme and Audacious. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please do let me know if you're a fan of this series of fragrances or this style. I'd like to find out. If there are any other fragrances that are similar, also let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. If you have any questions or ideas for me to, for videos, you can send those questions to lfsgquestions@gmail.com. Either way, thanks again for tuning in. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.